introduce myself because this year I recognize a lot more of you, but there's still some I don't recognize, except if I saw your name in an email. So my name is Casey Cline. I'm the Director of Career Services here at the college. I'm located in the back of Wessel's Library and at part of the Center for Student Success. Okay, that's my skills.
Yeah, and Oppenheimer, I am new this year in the Department of Her. I know.
I got it.
David Rachels, I'm an English professor.
Pat Galliano, speech and theater.
Kenny Jones, teacher education.
Shelley Clinic, teacher education.
Stephen McClung, business, sports, and communication.
Charlie Wissinger, educational technology.
Matthew Kidder, business. Mike Banks, religion.
Tanya Associate, graphic design and digital marketing.
Carlos Horn, biology. Brett Clark, biology and dean of science and math.
Julia Hayes, I'm in science and math because it's lovely, and I am exercise science.
I'm sorry, what?
And Lawson.
Yep.
Tracy Power, history, and I'm a college art.
Valerie Burnett, I am biology, therapeutic psychology. Sarah Masterson, music.
I know you. I know you. Yes. Okay. If you did not get a handout, there should be some loose ones laying around. So just raise your hand, and then whoever has the loose ones will pass them on. Yeah, those don't need to be passed around. Those are just a flyout. At the front, when you head out, there is a flyer with the events for this year. So with scans and everything. So if you, hopefully you've gotten my emails, but if you haven't or you want a flyer, you can have a flyer on the way out, grab one. So today we're going to be talking about Newberry career-related statistics, kind of the guide for our career services model, and how that ties in and correlates to the developmental advising model. We're going to talk about where we benchmark our information from for career services, and then how we can help our students when advising them. So there's a lot. I might have to cut some of you off because it creates a lot of discussion just to get through everything, so bear with me. So what I will be sending these slides out to, I was asked to send them out, so I will send them out. These are just some stats that we've started tracking. So this is from the first destination survey that goes out to students at time of graduation. We then follow them at the 3-month mark and the 6-month mark, okay? And we try to get as many of them to respond as possible. So when we talk about data, data is only as good as what we can get, right? So there, you will notice there's some call outs I sent to deans recently that we've done a 3-month check-in for like this May class. And they might not answer to my phone calls or my intern's calls. They might not answer to my emails and everything, but you might have had a good relationship with a student. And so when you see their name, when it's passed down to you from the dean, please, if you know them and reach out to them, they might respond to you. You might even know. A lot of times I found out that some professors already know because the students have excitedly told them where they are now. Please pass that information on to me. Because when we talk about this, like for the December 21st, May, and then 2022 class, the average out to 83% of students were employed at 6 months post-graduation. Now, this includes employment, volunteer, internship, paid internships, military, all of those are categorized under that. So we're looking at 17% not employed, still looking is what they report. And I'm sorry, continuing ed, like going on to grad school is also in part of that 83%, okay? So that's 17% that are still looking. I think that that percentage is smaller, but like I said, once they leave here, if they don't respond, I can't get the information. We did just purchase Alumni Live. We're hoping that that might help narrow it down a little. They gather all the public information out there for us and might help us to track down some of that. But like I said, anything y'all can do to let me know. If you know of someone, a student, like let me know so that I can add that information in and get the most accurate numbers we can. So what are we comparing this to? So we compare and look at NACE, the National Association of Colleges and Employers. Okay, and this is initial. So this isn't with the 3-month calls, I'm just making the numbers going up some, and then we'll check in with them at 6 months too, and we'll know more of where we're at, okay? So NAICS is always behind by at least a year with gathering all the national data, but in the 2021 class, came out last summer, it was 87.5% were employed nationally on average. 2020 class was 91%, okay? So we are below the national average. I will say there's a caveat when we talk about data though. So it's only as good as what we're comparing it to. If we look at Clemson, USC or anything, you have to look at the fine print when they post it online. Their return rate on their surveys is about 50 to 60%. Presbyterian down the road, 87% response rate. We are lucky in the sense that our higher administration supports me in gathering this data and we tie it to graduation. So other than the May class, we've been having 99, 100% response rate. That's really good. It's way higher than the national average on the response rate. So we're really, we're up there as far as trying to get that information at least, we're up there, okay? So that's just a couple caveats when we look at data. Use of career services, out here, this is something I track just to see what students are going to. What I want to point out, because I want to talk about it later on, is smaller percentages of what students are going to are job search, professional networking, grad school prep. So when we talk about our juniors and seniors, those things are the smallest percentage that students are attending and going to those things. Yet, some will suffice it to say that those are direct correlations to getting a job, going to grad school, things like that, is knowing how to do that. Those things are low as far as student attendance. Not pinpointing any major here, just putting that out there. Keep in mind our numbers are low. So even if yours looks higher at your major, it's not. It's like 10 students maybe, okay, or 6 students. But this is at the time of graduation, okay, by majors of students still looking the higher numbers. Also keep in mind of a correlation of some of them are where there's more still looking are our larger programs. So that seems to make sense, right? The reason we're doing this, I'm showing this to you, is because we're just trying to track it to see if there's any trends that come about, okay? Here is salary trends. So you can see there's been a leap in the last couple of graduating classes. All of these do have the respiratory therapy program in there. However, I will say, even though we have nursing and things like that that might start out naturally at a higher rate, I do have quite a few. I don't show all the slides because we have too many majors, but I do know they do report where they're going to work and what they're doing and everything. If anyone wants the raw data, I will give it to you and you can filter and sort to your heart's desire down to your major. But we do have quite a few business accounting students all starting, 60,000 on up. So that's part of that average too, that goes in there. As far as the national average, I think for this last May class, the national average is around 58,000 to 9,000, but that's the national average. They don't break it down by state. So I think we're doing pretty well, a little over 49,000 on average for those that reported salaries. Not all of them report salaries. So again, data is only as good as what you get. Any questions on this so far?
I have a silly question.
Yeah.
When we're saying, are we saying related to what we studied?
Most of them are, but not all of them. I will say, having looked at what they report as their jobs, majority of them are in something related to their major. Again, if you want that raw data, I can send it out. There are ones that we look at that we'll put, usually they're at the time of graduation or something, like I'm at Walmart full time still, you know what I mean? Yeah. We do look at the ones that, like I said, we do the outreach to those that are still looking, and those that put continuing ed on it, because not all of them, they might have put, I applied to these but weren't accepted yet. So do they end up going on to grad school or not? That's why we'll track them at 3 and 6 months. to see if they actually go, or did they end up going to work, or what are they doing?
Just curious, how many are in the sample here? To get an idea about how.
It depends. It's the graduating class. So, or do you mean like the national sample?
So is this the universe of all graduating students?
Yes. So
So
like,
every student responded.
So
and
like-
data for-
so if we went all the way back there at the December 2021, all the way through December of last year, all those graduating classes were at a 99 to 100% response rate. So like December class was 77, we got, I think, all of those. You know what I mean? One of them, there was 2 students that didn't this past May, we only had about 92% response rate out of, it was 170 something, I think. I have all those numbers though.
But that's
Yeah.
kind of great coverage. I just
Yeah,
care about coverage.
yeah,
That's not-
Yeah. It's really good rate and response rate and everything.
These are self-reported. I'm sorry. I missed.
Yes, this is them filling out the survey. So again, how they interpret the questions, like when it comes to, did you attend a career thing? Maybe they did it in their class, but they didn't report that in the survey. You know what I mean?
And they're getting the survey.
The survey is given, they have to complete it before graduation. So usually the last couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, we push it heavy.
Oh.
Yeah. Good questions. So what we look at from a career perspective is competencies for career-ready workforce. This is from NACE. So this is what they're saying colleges should be, that employers want colleges to prepare students to be proficient in these areas. So I'm not going to break down everyone, but I just want to mention them. Career and self-development, communication, critical thinking, equity, inclusion, leadership, professionalism, teamwork, technology. Any of these familiar to y'all? All of them,
Look at
right?
that.
Ding, ding, ding. I
Close.
love Family Feud. Like, ding, ding, ding. You got it, right? Like, you're doing this already in your classes, whether it's philosophy, whether it's math, whether it's exercise science class, nursing. Y'all are doing this and teaching this. Here's part of the problem. I think there's a disconnect.
Do they know where? to-
Exactly. Thank you. Ding, ding, ding. Oh, I love it. Family Feud. I wish I could do this thing, right? Is that you're teaching, but do they know it? So my call out to you, and it's in a later slide, is what happens if under like the ADA disability statement that you give in class that you put on your syllabi, can you put 1 or 2 liner that says, these are the career competencies you will develop in this class. And you just list them, communication, critical thinking, whatever it is. And you just list it. And then when you're going over that syllabi in that first class, you put the language to it and you say, this is what we're learning. You'll be doing presentations to work on communication. You'll be doing this. If that's all you do in your class, imagine if every single professor did that from freshman year all the way to graduation. Do you think that that will help them to learn the language when they're going out doing interviews and in the work world and everything? Because when you start out, what do you know? You're going to that internship interview and they say, tell me about a time you had to communicate to someone like that was difficult working with them. You know, they don't even have the language. They don't say, well, you know, I learned this to communicate with them in this way. You know, I learned to do teamwork through this presentation in class and we had conflict. You know, how do we learn that? They're learning it. They just don't know how to make that correlation in the work world. Okay. So this hot off the presses from NACES this summer. When they surveyed academia and they surveyed employers, this is what academia said. 96% of our graduates are prepared for the work world. Business leaders are saying 11% are prepared when they come out to us. Right? Is that a gap? Gap analysis right here, right? Gap.
This is national.
51% of students, and now we got the middle ground. 51% of the students are saying they feel prepared when they graduate. Right? What we do know is that those students that do a paid internship, and I would even push that to say unpaid internship, because a lot of human services don't get paid, but it's still a valuable experience, an internship no less, are on average more likely to get more offers when they graduate and start at a higher salary than those that have no experience in their field at time of graduation. We do know that. And that seems kind of like common sense, right? Yet, we don't have every student doing internships. while they're here. So again, if you're advising a student, if you're in a major where it's not required for whatever reason, can you still have a discussion with them? The end of sophomore year, before they're going into their junior year, that summer, can you have a discussion with them? How you spending your summer? What are you doing? Can you volunteer somewhere in your field? Can you look for a job if you're working with children and want to work with children in daycare or at a YMCA or a rec center or something? Look, align it. What do they know? They know, hey, I can go be a cashier. I can go to Subway and work. I can, be a waitress. I mean, there's nothing wrong with those, but usually there's no correlation to what they want to do. And so when we look at, even if you can't get an internship, can you try to find a job for the summer that correlates? Can you, if you can't do that and you have to work that job as a waitress, but can you volunteer 2 hours a week in the area, in the field, somewhere where you live? Yes.
Challenges are, what do the students need for next year? So I was just, hey, I need to get some money. I don't have a car, I need to buy a car.
Yep.
Those things like that. And then others are 3 weeks right into the semester. I wonder what I'm gonna do this summer. And so that conversation back in January or sometimes even in the fall ends up being really helpful, especially for, in my area in science, where there's a lot of students wanting to go to professional school, and those internships are so critical to so many of those graduate programs.
Yep. And so that goes to say, right, you're absolutely 100% right. Like, I mean, I was just giving an example of it. Like, I believe you should be talking about it from freshman year on. They can be going to career fairs and making connections, even if they're going to do an internship, sophomore year or junior year.
When they get experiences talking to those people.
Exactly. So I can take the case all the way back to, as freshmen, they should be going to these types of events. And I've seen it. I had a student as a freshman when I went to meet him at the end of for College 101 or 102. He came up to me afterwards and said, I have an internship at the DMV for the summer in accounting because that's what I want to do. They've hired him on in the winter break. They've hired him on this summer. Like, he loves it and he's getting paid and he's doing it and he's getting so much experience. I'm just trying to get him to get a different experience because I want him to try something else, but he loves it, so he's going for it. But it's never too early. I had a student coming in that's pre-nursing and she did a program in school and we've already got her set up to do job shadowing over here at the hospital as soon as she gets on campus. So it's never too early to explore, to connect, network and everything. All of that is going to help them when they go to get out of here. So career readiness competencies. So this is what employers are saying, like, hey, 96% of communication, like that's what we would like to see. That's the importance of it. Communication, that proficiency is 96% of importance. What students are coming in at, their rating is at 46%, the communication level. So these are all huge gaps. So employers are saying critical thinking, we rate it 95%, but students are coming in at 56% competent in that area.
You know how they measure that?
What is the one thing on here where there's not a gap, and in fact, it's almost the same, and students might be a little higher? Technology.
There's a bias there.
I
It's either have it or you don't. I'm sorry.
attended a conference a year and a half ago in Boston, and one of the speakers was a consultant for all the that students have the hard skills. It's the soft skills they don't have. And they said the number one thing they look at companies for is, are you able to interact in a group with other people that are different than you?
Yeah.
And that's the number one thing they said that students.
Yeah.
And that's something that I try to teach my capstone class because they're a different animal.
Yeah.
And with COVID.
Yeah, they have the technology skills and everything. Like, the employers aren't saying they need more of that. It's those soft skills.
Not the hard skills.
Exactly. And yes.
I think we're missing something on the technology side, because if you're hiring for a position, requires technology skills, then you're either going to make that cut or you're not. So if you get hired, then you have those skills. Yeah. Because they obviously screen, those are requirements. Like, if I go for a data science job, it's like, I have to know data science to get the job. So obviously I've got the skills by screening of getting the job. It's not things that they're going to find out later. So
Yeah.
I'm not so sure.
But I also think though, that in general, even in a basic job where technology is used, they're saying students have that basic
And if
skill.
they don't, they have the ability to learn very quickly.
Exactly. Versus if you were to do this analysis for technology with people that are 65 or 70, they're probably, an employer's going to rate that at less, even for a general job. Because they didn't grow up with that. They don't have that knowledge. Right? So this screen, anyone notice what happened after 2020? After COVID? Yeah. So what we don't want to tell students is that a C is great. Like, you just need to slide by, right? That's not what I want the message you to get from this slide. What I want you to say is, to me, this is kind of common sense. When we're doing admissions for colleges, we don't just look for the student with a 4.0 GPA. That we've switched to a model many, many years ago where it's about holistically looking at extracurriculars, that more well-rounded student, So is it really uncommon to say that they're not looking at just GPA anymore? That they're looking for those soft skills that they hope students are getting when they find someone that's been in part of clubs, been in organizations, done internships. They're hoping that maybe if we don't just go for someone that only focuses on academics but has no soft skills or experience, that maybe we'll find that. So what replaces GPA? Again, I want to get some other stuff. So very quickly though, one thing I take away from this is many of them say internship, industry experience, internship with your industry, academic major. Are we seeing a trend? So experience in your field in some way, shape, or form. Volunteer work. Again, can that be in your area? So how can we help them when advising? This is the model that I give students from orientation on. So parents get this at orientation. I use it in freshman seminar classes. Everything is explores freshman year, select junior or sophomore year, experience junior year, transition senior year. So if we're just looking at kind of that junior and seniors and what we need to help really get them going, we're looking at experiential learning, internships, job shadowing, community involvement, networking, building skills, all of that stuff getting out there by junior year. And that's like, the latest I would like to see. And then transition. So, when I go back to junior year, I will do presentations senior year to, in March, I'll be asked to come and do a presentation to a class about grad school. How many of you want to go to grad school? All of them raise their hands. How many of you have applied? 2. This is March, April, senior year. Yeah, see the cringes? We all know, but we have to think about what our students know. If we have a lot of first gen, if we have a lot of students that don't get that support at home, don't know, what can they do if they don't know? So they're looking at taking a gap year, a lot of them. And they're the ones we might see working at Walmart, just line work, because they now have to take a gap year. So that's a real disservice to them. So when we're advising them, are we having these discussions with them? What's your plan? So,
Some of them don't even know that there is a selection process to get in.
Exactly.
They think, I want to go to graduate school. I just get to go.
Yeah.
They don't even
Exactly.
realize that there is,
there's GRE,
major tests, they don't
development,
realize
all of
that
them,
they may
yeah.
not get in.
Yep.
That, that there's deadlines.
Exactly. Exactly. And so we're doing them an injustice if we're not having these conversations. And if we're not having them in classes, then we need to have them in advising. And imagine if we're all having these discussions with them. Hopefully more and more of them will know and be aware. So I put this slide in here just to say this does correlate to each of, when we talk about developmental advising and the things that they can be doing. There are career aspects in each, that whole part of that advising module. So again, some things you can do. End of sophomore year, be talking about what are you going to do for an internship? What are you going to be doing for work this summer? What about your work study job? Apply over the summer here. Can you find one that's more in your line? I had a position opened up for institutional work study just last minute for financial aid. It was going to be for 8 weeks. And I had a student, when I posted it, reached right out for me. She said, I'm an international student. I'm going to be a senior. I'm in accounting. I have no experience. This would be perfect. And I said, okay. Her resume was great. I said, we're going to get it to the hiring supervisor. She got hired in a day. and now she's gonna get some experience,
Great.
okay? That's what we want to see happen, is them to make those connections. Okay, internships. So when we talk about that, you know, there are other resources when we talk about athletes and not having the time and everything. Is the Farad has free virtual experiences. They do a project for a Fortune 500 company. It's free. It's self-paced. It takes 5 to 10 hours. They get a certificate. It can go on their LinkedIn. It can go on their resume. Paragon One, externships. So they're paid. It's remote. They can do them. Parker Dewey, micro internships. Again, companies that have projects that they post, they're like students apply to them. Yes, it's a competitive process. They have to apply to them. They can apply to as many as they want. They are paid. They are remote. So there is some flexibility, but students have to be made aware of these opportunities, and then they have to have the motivation to apply. Again, I shared that I posted 10 internships just the other week. I had 3 students reach out. And there was plenty of paid ones on there, and the paid ones aren't even filled yet. One's on campus, paid, no one's applied. You know? So, anything you can do when I send these things out and these experiences, if you know of students that could benefit from them, that are motivated, that would want to do them, please share with them and help spread the word for them. Okay? I'm hoping with Alumni Live, we can use more of our alumni to do job shadowing, to reach out to them, to do meet and greets for students to just kind of talk with professionals in the field other than us. Okay? And you never know, it could lead, because we have access to these alumni and they're in different states, different areas. If students meet with them and have conversations with them, it might lead to an internship, you know, but it will help us to, I think, have a greater kind of database to, if I have a student that's looking to do an exercise science or a physical therapy internship in the summer, but they live in North Carolina, we can do a search, see if we have any alumni working in that field, in that state, and help make that connection. And at least if they're not in that same exact area, they might know a physical therapist nearby where that student is. I think it can help make a lot more connections and just help our students to have those networking and conversations.
Question.
Yes.
Do you know about Ready to Work if they have a physical health?
Yes. I refer students there all the time. A lot of them are unpaid, so they don't do it.
They get from
I know.
just hired
I
to.
know.
I wondered if you knew about it.
Yep. They hear the word unpaid and a lot of them will cringe and like just won't do it and won't apply. I will say I've had conversations, you know, one of the things that I'm trying to do, make a concerted effort of is, you know, even if I have a nonprofit, say they'll no, we can't pay them, you know, I am going to make a concerted effort to say, can you give them a stipend? Even if it's $200 or $500 at the end of it. At least something to help the student to also feel valued, but also to offset some of that diversity, equity, and inclusion where some of our students have to get something, even if it's just for gas money to get to an internship, you know. So
This would decide to pay. It sounds more feeling like.
They can also get full credit for it.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
experience, yeah. We can call it experience-based. I'll change my language to that. I like it.
To the English guy, the writer.
I mean, I use that language when I'm talking to them about it, but as soon as they hear unpaid, I think they just shut the door.
It's a good point.
Yeah, so I do like that. Thank you.
Experience versus.
Yeah.
the money.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do
need to know it's unpaid. It's the one.
Right.
Yeah, that is,
I'm getting paid.
they will, I do have to put that because they will ask that still.
Right.
And I do stress it's all about the experience, but
But it doesn't have to be listed, it's named unpaid.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
we can try it. Willing to try it. Again, like, are we talking about grad school early enough for them? Are we telling them to go to the grad school fair in the fall, junior year? You know, are we doing those things? Yes.
When you do the graduate school presentations, is
Yeah.
there any conversation in there on asking for reference letters or the things that you can ask, or maybe what you should think about before you ask?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
You can also psychologically anchor them, say, well, here's a couple of internships you have to pay for.
Yeah, start out with, here's what you have to pay for. But yes, sir, we do cover all of that. We even talk about ways to pay for grad school, you know, or creative ways or things to do, stuff like
I'm
that.
just thinking of some of them that come a little bit later to ask some hires.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Things you just.
I even talk to students just about even job, like, I'll be like, today I got a one for a reference for a student in nursing. And I emailed them and said, I think you need to call them back and like ask for someone, because I haven't worked with them in that capacity. I want a clinical experience and this and that. And I was like, I can't speak to that. I can only speak to how you are as a motivated student and you did all these things, but that's not what this blanket online survey is asking me to complete. I'm not talking to a person, so I don't want to not give you a full opportunity. Yeah. So summer before senior year, you know, are you applying to grad school? Are you taking your exam? You know, what are you doing? A lot of that same stuff, but really stressing networking, stressing, do you have your resume? Don't be a senior. I get slammed the week of graduation asking for help with professional resumes. That means they haven't even started looking yet and considering it. They should have that by spring, beginning of spring semester, and they should be starting their search then. They should hopefully be hearing from grad schools, you know, spring semester and have a plan of where they're going. So even that summer before senior year, just putting it in their brain, like, what are you going to be doing on this year? I mean, it seems far away, but it's going to happen real quick. What are you doing in the next year to prepare and be ready for that? Because your parents don't want you coming back home. And you know, lastly, my college instructors, like I said, can you put it on the syllabus? Can you incorporate any of the workshops or anything that are happening, the career events, the career fairs? Can you make them come and have to speak to 3 employers and then write a reflection on it or something? How can you incorporate into those competencies and piece it together? I don't want you to do any more work on your part. I want you to integrate this career focus in a little bit. You're going to have them do something related. Can you use what we're already doing existing on campus? If you want to create something, if you want me to come into your classroom, like everyone just email me and I'll create a presentation based on what you want me to focus on with students. But I'm more than happy to do certain events, but I'm not going to do them anymore unless I have buy-in from you all. And you aren't the only ones that I pick on. I pick on athletics just as much. When we did a mock interview etiquette lunch, I had more employers here to interview students than I had students that showed up. 11 students. We had a great presenter for the etiquette lunch. It was a 4-course sit-down meal, everything. Employers stayed. Students that attended it, great reviews. 2 of them had interviews the next week. They were seniors. They sent me an email. They got the jobs. And they said that that was so helpful for them. But I'm not doing it. It's too costly, too time consuming. It's too much of an ask for employers and presenters to come for 11 students out of our population. I tried to do a networking event with young professionals, a lot of them were alumni here. I had more of them coming than I had students, 6 for an event that was going to be costly. These networking could have led to internships. They could have led to jobs. You never know, mentors. I had to cancel it. I'm not going to do it. So instead, I put the call to you all. If there's anything you want to tie in, like you want to tie it into your class and have them do it, and we get a couple of business professors that want to do this, I will throw it together. I will nicely put it together and make it a great experience. But I need your help because let's face it, students are not going to come to career things unless they are our top tier students. We all know how this goes. And those are fewer than the majority. Okay. And so if you want to do things, I will do them. I'm more than happy to. But I need involvement. I need some kind of time and buy-in to host these. Because, you know, when I hosted an event with Waffle House the first time, and they brought staff members to make waffles, and they brought big wig people from the region and everything. We had 1 student show up to Resumes and Waffles. When I tied it in with a leadership group, we had 50 students show up the next time. So it works if we work it. Okay. Any questions, comments, brainstorming in the last 0 minutes? Okay, y'all know where to find me, right?
Thank you, Casey. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the attention. I know it's a long day for y'all.